a request. Okay, a direct request, and I promise you it was real. This is not me just making stuff up so I can play in blue eyeshadow. I had a request to use this palette and to do a blue eyeshadow look, just all the way blue. So let's see what we come up with. I'm very excited. By the way, I'm absolutely loving this eye primer. It's not as tacky as the Milk, but I think it kind of is in that realm. And I also think that the tacky base was sometimes a little intimidating and harder to work with. So I think that we've got a really nice in between with this one. You can see that it's really, really wet, but then it's not as wet as the Milk one. I feel like that's the only way I can describe it. And it's completely transparent. Now I'm going to use this blue very intensely. So it's going to be so intense, it's going to cover up a lot of my skin tone. So then I'll come back around these edges in a minute, just like this, and I'll melt in probably powder foundation. It's kind of like a little reverse situation today. When I know I want these tones to just be their most intense, I want to use a tackier base like this. And also I want to use the pigment very intensely. So this is a really good base to do that. So all the yapping is just yapping at this point. I feel like when we get to the visual of me showing you, you're gonna be like, oh. And then the reason I wanna do the powder foundation in a little while instead of using a concealer colored base is because it'll just do a really, really fun melt and it just keeps everything really, really intense. The other option would be to use a white base, but that could take this a little more pastel. So I feel like this is gonna be really, really fun. And there's no right or wrong when it comes to a base. It's more about just play around and see what you like. Let's get it going. E27 coming back very, very soon. Let's start here. I love this color. It's not quite mint. It's this beautiful icy blue. So let's go ahead and start to place that up here. And then I'm just gonna pick up more. I always like to build. You get beautiful dimension when you build, and you actually get an easier blend when you build. I love my, don't ask, eyeshadow. Sparkly one. Oh, I know what that was. I filmed with the new 𝗕𝗓𝗧𝗬𝗓 yesterday. I think it's gonna be Feral Week, actually. It is October. I should do a Halloween look. Y'all, I used to do a Halloween look almost daily in October years ago. I just got too sleepy for all that. I already love that. That's so pretty. Okay, I'm wiping off the E27. Now, I'm letting the palette speak to me. Let's go here before we get to the darker colors. Y'all, I pick up a lot of the pigment, a lot. I love this eyeshadow base so much. It just does what I want it to do. It just intensifies shadow, but it grabs it, and it also isn't so wet that it changes the color. I have a video on that in one of these videos that I film. It's kind of like, sometimes when we think we have powders, we think that they're not always as pigmented as our liquids and creams, but they're actually wildly pigmented if we apply them on top of a wet base, that being our foundation, concealer, or an eyeshadow base. So I like that about this eyeshadow base. That's the truest color. This is gonna be a good demonstration. And I still absolutely love this base, but it can change the color because it does stay so wet. And then this is the color that I just put on. You can see that it's much darker, and this is just a rough situation. It works beautifully, and it's not about the passioness. We know we love it, but do you see how it's a lot darker than that? That is actually what it looks like in the pan. So I really like that this base because of that. Now I'm gonna finish this tutorial with a blue spot. This is so relaxing to me. It's like painting on a canvas, except for the canvas is my face. I'm gonna make this a little less abstract today. I know it feels a little abstract, but it's all gonna connect in a very soft way. But this is also a really good way to understand blending and kind of melting everything together, even if you want to use your favorite neutrals and browns and bronzes. All right, let's take this out of the pastel. And you need to put on your makeup seatbelt. I think I heard it click. All right, we're seatbelted in. I'm gonna go ahead and hop here. I wish I had Hung's liner in this shade. He has one in that shade. I've been meaning to pick it up, but I just haven't been anywhere. I could order it, but I just keep forgetting I'm about to do that. Oh, look at the saturation. Delightful. Oh my goodness. So satisfying. I really think that the base plays a huge part too. I'm serious. I think this eyeshadow base is pretty exceptional. Remember, I have access to all the eyeshadow bases, but for intensity and even evenness, this is a color that wants to go patchy very, very quickly. Not the particular formula. I'm just talking the color, and it's perfect. And you know, this might seem tedious, but it might be one of the reasons that I keep so much control over shadows. I feel like these types of shadows, they are very intimidating because they tend to get away from us very, very quickly. And what happens is a lot of the time we're using the wrong eyeshadow base and we're using the wrong brush. Do you notice how even where I'm at in my makeup journey, I do makeup every single day, sometimes 2 to 3 times a day, and I still know that this particular shade wants to absolutely go to my brow bone. It wants to just go here to here to here. It wants to eat up all of these other shadows. So I'm using one of the smallest brushes, I guess the second smallest brush in the collection. This is the E27. And even though it's small, it's angled and you can see how beautifully it's displacing pigment. So these are things to think about, even with your favorite eyeshadow look, the one that you love to do all of. I was saying even with your favorite eyeshadow look, but especially with shadows that we just don't feel as comfortable with, something like this intense cobalt. So I really feel that if we use a smaller brush and the right base, we could get out of our comfort zone if we want to. Stay in your comfort zone. It's a beautiful place to be. But I love to inspire and I love for you to try new things because it can be so much fun. So if you've ever tried to do something out of your comfort zone, you might have missed using the right eyeshadow base. Oh, that is so pretty. And then also we start, and I remember YouTube years ago taught me that everything needed to be done with a brush this big. And yes, a brush this big is very important. That's why it's in my collection. This was in the very first launch when we launched the company, but it's not for this right now. It's for later. Think of it as a finisher. And this is so minute, but it's really does make a difference. So all of this packing that I've done has caused the eyeshadow to just kind of get a little messy around the edges here. So whenever I'm kind of moving on to something else, and even if I want to come back, I'm wiping this on Sheila. It really does make a difference. It kind of resets the brush, and now I'm still going to be using that same shade, but now I know exactly how much is on the brush. And I'm going to start to tap and transition this a little bit. Still tapping. I'm telling you, these kind of shades, they want to betray you, but they just take a little extra finesse, and I know you can do it. Now that's going to be a good enough blend for now, because remember, I still mentioned that powder foundation. We're going to melt it in with our undertone and our skin tone in just a little while. And guess what we're going to use? The E29. We're going to use the big fluffy, but not right now. So now I'm going to just darken the lid. I wanted to use this shade. I think I'm going to skip these shades. These are going a little bit too teal. So I just want to do a nice little smoky eye. I'll come back and maybe add some accents. Actually, chaos. I think I'll just place it out here. And yes, I switched to an E28, because I'm wanting to cover more space all at once. And I want to just kind of melt this into the brighter transition blue and just do a nice little smoky lid. Just keep pressing. I am using the side of it in intense pressing motions. I also like to think this really helped me whenever I was starting with my eyeshadow looks. I kind of learned that everything about eyeshadow is layering and thinking about how to fill in the next gap. So that really helped me. It might be too abstract for you, but even right now, as I'm filling this in, the idea is to even see this right here. I see that. And that's very, very small and might not even be something you think about. But when I look, I do see that. And then I'm like, you know what? Let's let everything meet, become friends, and layer on top of one another. And then it all becomes like filling in a gap. I hope that makes sense. It made so much sense for me, and it really, really helped me. Now, one thing I want you to notice is that I've blended this up a little bit higher, and this is such a good hooded eye. I know I do not have hooded eyes, but this is just the name of the game. Do you see how it's much smaller through here, but then it's starting to come, it's very far over my fold still. Not a hooded eye, no, but hooded eyes are gonna have that fold, and then just imagine that kind of peeking up and at an angle, it just really lifts the eye. That was a really good demonstration. Just imagine you can't see any of my lid. Very nice. I also keep forgetting that I can zoom in now and it doesn't get all weird. Fallout's completely normal with this type of pigment and this type of intense packing. I remember when Fallout was bad too. It's not bad. It's art. It's like saying paint on the floor is bad. All right, let's take this shade. This one's the bright one again. And then I think I'm just gonna brighten in here a little bit. Oh yeah, that's nice. Now also, if we're not shaking double wear, it ain't gonna work for us. I know. I shake it for a very long time. I actually don't mind that it doesn't have a pump. And the reason why is because I use a spatula with it anyways. I'm doing outdoor beige. That right there is dried eyeshadow base. And then that's enough, that's on my hand. And then I just use a spatula to really make sure it's nice and smooth. Also, I do this because it helps me just get right in here and I don't have to worry about dry times, because double wear absolutely dries down. But when I have it already smoothed out, oh, look at that match, all over my face, I can work more quickly. I'm just gonna let this run while you watch C42 melt all this in. Goes right around my brows so perfectly. These are all the things I think of when I design these dadgum brushes. That's right, they're dadgum brushes. If you're closer to my age, you might always think of Mimi from the Drew Carey Show when you see blue eyeshadow, but it doesn't have to be that way, even though I loved her makeup, okay? I absolutely did. But if you're a little concerned, we're gonna use color theory. And whenever I wear blue eyeshadow, you best believe I'm going to do an orange corrector. Not only is the blue gonna pull underneath my eye, it's gonna make all of that blue come to life. Let me make that a little bit more even. But I like to use a C31 and I will melt edges. And if you're not sure, which most of us here are, but blue is going to be neutralized by the orangey peach. So I always like to go around edges here, and it just really melts and looks so nice. Now I'm still gonna do concealer, and since we have balance, we can brighten a little bit more. So I'm gonna use a lighter shade. Brighten up the center. If you ever wondered why these spots, which you might already know, but we have new friends here every day. This is where the light hits us the hardest. So anytime you highlight there, it's going to really bring that forward. It's really about thinking about high points on the face. It clicks when you say it like that, at least it did for me. And also, if you were wondering why we needed the balance only underneath our eyes, that's because most human beings, our eyes are in just a little bit, especially as we age. So that can start to recede. This has not, that's all sticking out forward. So I don't really have to worry about that turning gray quite as much on my skin tone. Now, if you have a deeper skin tone, sometimes this area here might need a little correction. It could turn a little bit gray. But for the most part, if it kind of sticks out, you should be good to not need any kind of depth underneath it. Now this also lends itself to color theory. So whenever I do makeup, all I think about is color theory because it's just incredible. If I use really any of my normal bronzers alone, this blue eyeshadow is going to pull them very extreme orange. It's opposite on the color wheel. Here's blue, here's orange. So what I like to do to combat that is I'll apply a bronzer. Yes, this is a bronzer. Jones Road. You can tell I love it. Look how you can see the pan. Love this bronzer. If you don't like bronzers, I'm gonna recommend this one. But I'm still gonna use my regular bronzer in just a second, but I'm giving this a little bit of a pink base, a pinky red base. That way I conquer my bronzer. I still get my beautiful shape, but it's not just a bright pumpkin orange. Even though it's October, I don't want that. And I just have to hoot about this for a second. This is the best bronzer brush that I've ever used because obviously I've designed it for what I like. I still love my C40 and I use it all of the time, but I just find that this little bit of extra control just really just hits the makeup spot. And I'm very excited. And so many of you are absolutely in love with it. I am actually using it with powder. So I guess I reimagined it essentially because I feel a lot of our bronzers have went to that very wet cream situation. I mean, this is a great example, kind of this underpaint feeling, but it's still so great for control and sculpting in small faces with powder. Oh, just, it just makes me so happy. Now I'm gonna grab MAC Give Me Sun, which is usually way too orange for me, but it's gonna be so good in this case. And I'll still use my same C40.5 and it'll just toast this up. So it'll take it away from, right now on my skin tone alone, Dusty Rose can kind of read as a blush. And then if you're wondering who would it be for, if you're fair, Dusty Rose is just gonna be perfect by itself because fair skin, it automatically just grabs bronzer and turns it very, very orange most of the time. So if you're very fair, you would not even worry about this step. But for me, I'm more the light medium skin tone. So adding just a little bit of a classic-y, very orange bronzer on top is just gonna look so good. These trendsetters, I already had them trimmed and now they're nice and warmed up. There we go. Oh yeah, they're nice and warmed up. I know, but you have to let them kind of sit here for a second and then remember the shape of your eye. But I do this with any style of lash. All right. Now, give it a nice little clampity clamp. These are, I don't even know how many times I've worn these. These are very familiar with my eye shape. I'm laughing because so many of you that are here with me every single day, you'll chime in sometimes and be like, hey, why aren't we just using a white base? And then you'll be like, you know what? I should have waited. I try my best to cover all of my bases to explain everything, because I remember when I started this, somebody would be like, okay, we're going to use this today. And I'd be like, but why? So that's what I try to do. I want to tell you why I'm doing everything. Sometimes it's just artistic, and that's what I try to say. It's just an artistic vision. So again, we used that base. For one thing, I know it was just going to grab and intensify pigment, and if we used white, sometimes it can go a little more pastel. So that's not where I wanted to go. But I love that y'all question, but I try to be 2 steps ahead. Hands on my hips. You know what's going to be really, really pretty with this? Let's do a silver waterline, and this is probably one of my favorite silvers of all time. It is from 𝗕𝗘𝗧𝗬, and if you want an intense, bright silver, this. And it glides so easily too. Exceptional. Now before we set, let's take a little bit of our eye primer. It ran away. RUNNOFT-C30, and then that's going to go underneath here. I'm gonna do it a little bit thicker underneath here too. Now get ready. E27. This color I want to roll around in. We're still gonna melt with powder foundation. I know I mentioned that a while ago. Still gonna happen though. Wow, that's gorgeous. And then I'll stop that blue right there. This is still one of my favorite powder foundations. This is the MAC one. Remember when I did an ad for this? It was like months ago. And then now it's time to start to melt all of these edges. And why I'm going to use powder foundation is because it's already perfectly in my skin tone and in my undertone. And since everything's already so powdery in terms of the powdery textures, this is just going to lay here really, really beautifully and melt together. And we're using the E29 because it's going to be the fluffiest, and the fluffiest of the brushes deposits the smaller amount of product, which then acts like a veil. That was my Stanley trying to steal my thought process there. Now I'm still using my Givenchy powder. But I'm using a lot of it. I'd already dug in at a bunch, by the way. And by dug in, I was just swirling around. I was picking up a lot of product is what I was saying before I hit play. I don't want you to think it's this intense if you just barely tap it. And then I'm just gonna set the center. And then for the edges of my face, I'm going to go ahead and use this powder. I switched to a C41 because again, I want more of a veil, and I'm not going directly on top of all of that bronzer. It could turn gray, even though that this is a fluffier brush. But if you've ever used a powder foundation just to kind of melt edges, then you know how seamless it can be. But it's also important to be mindful to not go on top of this because it could get muddy, and what muddy means is change the color, dull, and sometimes even look patchy. I actually love it the way it is, and I don't want to add any of the shimmer shadows, but to tell you the truth, there's only really, this one's more of a satin, and then this is a shimmer. It actually feels a little dry. No, it's wonderful. It just felt a little dry the first touch. That's a really pretty color. Those two would make a really pretty eye. And then I feel like we've used this one. It's a very white blue. Actually, I feel like this would be really cool on this part. I was at a store here in Houston called Kohl 𝗕𝗘𝗧𝗬𝗬. Kohl Lipscomb, really. and they have a really cool, very niche beauty section. If you've never been, it's worth going just to look at the beauty section. Really, it's a really cool store. But I love I go to the beauty section, and this is a brand called 𝗕𝗓𝗓. And the founder is the original founder of Stila Cosmetics. So I bought a bunch of shadows, this, and we're gonna use a lip liner, but I wanted to just throw this on very quickly. So I had to kind of walk you through how I stumbled upon, because I didn't even know, obviously I know about the founder of Stila, but I didn't know about this new brand. I will say, I'm not as impressed with this pencil right now. We gotta be honest here. It's a little dry and really, really tuggy, and you can see how it's just kind of picking up the hair here. And I feel like it's kind of doing the same here, and it's just getting a little clunky. But I didn't swatch this when I bought it. I did swatch the shadows, and they seem exceptional. So I will keep you updated on that. Let me put on some mascara. Prada mascara. And not because it's Prada. Y'all know we don't do that. But because it's like putting it on with a lash comb, and I love it so much. I don't even know how long I've been using this one. It's just so easy. Oh, he's on a meeting. Like I said, I bought the lip liner too. This is the shade Crosby. Let's try this one out. You know, that's a gorgeous color and has nice glide. Yeah, that's really nice. I'll keep you updated on how it lasts, because I'm gonna wear this for a while. I love the color and the glide. That's so interesting how different the glide was and the formula of the liner. So I'm trying, here, this is what it is. This is Lip Erase. This is a MAC Pro product. And no, I do not feel like we all need this, but it's really, really cool to kind of cancel out undertone. You could even wear it as a super nude lip. There's just so many different ways, because there's a lot of different shades. So this is light cool, which is, I'm a light medium cool. I think I have that one too over here somewhere, but I'm okay with this right now. I'm still gonna put lipstick on top of it, but it's just gonna kind of highlight the center and give you a blank canvas essentially. Look at how orangey this is, but look at how pretty and soft and peach it is now on top of Lip Erase. And again, I'm not, like my video said that I posted, I'm not telling you need it. This is a very niche pro product, but it's definitely something I would use. I love it. Oh, I forgot how much I love these Laura Mercier lipsticks. That is a really pretty peachy nude. I also love the color of this lip liner. Let me swatch it here on my hand so you can see it just kind of by itself. It's really, really good. Okay, this one's a lot better than the liner. The liner I don't think I'll ever reach for again. It was bad, friends. It's not that. Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like it's, I mean, you can see the difference. I know they're a different formula, but let's compare that liner to, I'll use the brown one here. Just the glide on this liner, that's what I want. That is what I want when it comes to a liner. Not that. That could just be me though. I actually like this without blush. This eye is so pretty. I'm trying to decide if I want to do blush. Let me see what I got. All right, let's do this. I really like these, by the way. I don't want you to feel like they're revolutionary and we need them, but I think that they have really nice pickup. I like the texture and I like the way they apply. So I'm going to do this more on the side of my face, only because I like the center, and this is personal. There's no right or wrong. I like this, the blue, to kind of be what you're focusing on at the front. And then I just want to transition a little bit of the blush through here. That is a gorgeous shade. Yep, glad I added blush. Does this look like Gold Flecks, like the NARS one? No. Oh, it's just so pretty. I feel like there's so much dimension there. I always put a little bit in the bronzer too. Just a little. This color's so pretty. It might be a new fave of mine. Gloss. I'm not done, we're painting. This is one of my favorite gloss formulas. Nobody talks about this one. I love the applicator, but it is a true gloss. It's not sticky because we've had formula updates, but it's definitely not a lip oil. It's a true gloss. And those who love gloss know exactly what I'm saying. But that also means that it's going to last longer than a lip oil. Nice. The gloss was a good call. All right, my friends. We painted. We're nice and painted. This looks so good. I'm just checking. I love the glow here. I kind of want to add a little bit more of that glow. And anytime that you can capture a dark color with, that's what I like to call it, capture. See this dark color? And it's, sorry, I touched that right there. But what I'm trying to say is this dark one right here, anytime it's, see how it's captured here and it's captured there, it just really adds to the glow. So I want to enhance that underneath here. And remember this shade, we're just going to take it E27 and stamp it there. And I'm going to stamp it all the way around. Enhance the glow. All right, we're done. Put down the brushes. That doesn't even look real. I'm gonna grab some more of it. Let's put it here. I know that this wasn't requested, but I really do want to put it on. Unearthly Cosmetics, they're pretty amazing. I'm having a lot of fun with their makeup. If you like creative makeup, they're a brand that I'm really into at the moment. Need to be stopped. Stop me. I literally say that all the time, didn't I say that? I'm gonna do it with the C40.5. I also love this one for highlighter too. So I'm just gonna do this cheek. Pick up some more. I love picking up highlighter like that and just in real time look. So easy. Oh, that's so pretty. Oh, don't mind me. Oh, and it's gone. And it's back. And it's gone. Look, no cast. Gorgeous. Let's go ahead and finish this side. I was showing you how pretty it is on the brush, the little twinkles. So pretty. All right, my friends, I love you. I love you with all of my heart. I'm not sure I'm gonna post tonight, but just like always, if you want me,